What up, Fight World? It's your boy Ego, and I'm back with some more boxing. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Now, looks like David Lemieux is going to be facing someone other than Curtis Stevens. I want to talk about that in this particular video. Very disappointing. I did a video saying about the Curtis Stevens fight. I was looking forward to it. Great mesh of styles. Not necessarily the most meaningful fight, but it was still a fight that I believe would be entertaining. Now, David Lemieux, you guys can go to his box rec. He's 35-3. He's been stopped twice, Marco Antonio Rubio and Gennady Golovkin. He's going to be fighting Christian Fabian Rios, right? Not an impressive record. 21-7-3 with 6 knockouts for a whopping 19%, right? 3 draws, 7 losses. But his claim to fame is he's never been stopped. One thing I was looking at box rec, he's supposed to be fighting this month. And then on top of that, he's going to fight next month, unless this is inaccurate, which maybe this was a fight he had planned and he's pulling out to fight David Lemieux, which is maybe a better purse for him, a bigger fight. But ultimately, it's not looking good for HBO. It's not looking good for Golden Boy, because this is definitely, I don't care what really anyone says if they tried to dispute it, but this is a step down from a Curtis Stevens. I mean, this is a guy with 7 losses. He's clearly not a known knockout puncher with 19% knockout ratio. He has more losses. Curtis Stevens has 5 losses, been stopped twice, but he has more knockouts, things like that. And he's just a bigger name overall. So, like I said, not necessarily the most meaningful fight, but it would have been fun for the fans. Both guys have talked trash online. They're both coming off good wins. Lemieux and Tapia for David Lemieux, and then for Curtis Stevens, he just came off beating a prospect, Patrick Teixeira, who was 26-0. Very disappointing. Now, like I said, new media is killing you guys. And I made this video 3 weeks ago. Showtime Boxing / PBC crushing HBO Boxing. Free and premium fights, no pay-per-view. And I meant every word. And I give it to you guys fair. Some people, they complain when I don't say what you want me to say. But I made the same video a year ago, and it was the reversal. HBO Boxing killing Showtime Boxing quarter 1 and quarter 2, because that's how I felt in 2015. But oh, what a difference a year makes. And it's a shame that HBO can't get their whole budget together, and they're putting together fights like David Lemieux. I mean, just think about it. Think about all the fights that were kind of talked about, and for whatever reason, they would have been on HBO, and they couldn't come into fruition. Like, we can't get Canelo versus Triple G, and I think everyone knows why that fight hasn't been made, so you can't really blame the network on that. But fights like Vasyl Lomachenko and Nicholas Walters would have been a great fight. Bob Arum was down to make it with both of his fighters, and they couldn't get enough of a budget together to appease the Walters side. And he has every right based on his resume. These fighters aren't stupid, especially since Al Heyman has entered the picture. Even if you're not with Al Heyman, you get to see, like, man, Broner and Danny Garcia, these dudes, Deontay Wilder, they're getting $1 million in paycheck. Even Robert Guerrero got over $1 million to fight Danny Garcia this year in January, and he hadn't particularly looked good. You know what I mean? And he got dropped by Keith Thurman and lost a lopsided decision, and where he was kind of banged up. Then he got dropped by Aaron Martinez, a guy with 6 knockouts, and he fought Danny Garcia after that, still got over $1 million. So again, these fighters, even if they're not with Heyman, they're not stupid. And Walters probably knows his own worth. He knows that Vasyl Lomachenko is an HBO darling. They probably don't want him to win, just like the Jason Sosa fight, where I thought he clearly won and then they didn't give it to him. He knows that things like that, there's a chance for those things in boxing, so he wasn't going to take the short money up front or a side bet, anything like that. David Lemieux, I mean, this proves nothing. Beating a guy that's 21-7-3 with 6 knockouts that no one's really heard of, it's not a good look for Golden Boy. It's not a good look for HBO. I mean, David Lemieux, even his last fight, I thought it was going to be more of an exciting fight than what it was, but it was very one-sided. Credit to David Lemieux's training and his focus ever since the Triple G loss. But Lemieux and Tapia, truth be told, he was coming off a year-plus layoff at 154, and he's lost 3 times, and 2 of them at the time of the Lemieux fight were by stoppage. So you look at Michel Soro fight, he was TKO'd. And then this was at 54. Then he moved up to 160, like literally almost a year later, 05, 08. 2015, 05, 07. So he basically had a year layoff, coming off a stoppage loss and moving up a weight division. So you got to put things in perspective, not to mention the James Kirkland knockout loss that he suffered a couple years prior. So even though David Lemieux looked exceptional in the Glenn Tapia fight, you got to put it in perspective. It was a 54-pounder who had been stopped before, and he got stopped twice before. He had also had a long layoff, and he was moving up in weight. So I like David Lemieux. I like what he brings to the table. Golovkin was clearly too much for him, but there's other good fights, and I thought Curtis Stevens was definitely a starting point. And for whatever reason, HBO's budget is that bad where they can't even put together these fights. They chose not to pick the Pacquiao-Vargas fights up at all. You know what I mean? So Bob Arum's having, for the first time in 10 years, having to find out what to do with Pacquiao and distribute it independently or whatever he's going to do, put on another network or whatever the situation is. So again, not looking good for HBO. I've had an HBO subscription solely for boxing, but I'm getting ready to cancel it if they don't get something cracking, because these pay-per-view fights, even if you have an HBO subscription, that doesn't matter. You would still have to pay for the pay-per-views, you know what I mean? And if you're not giving me regular boxing after darks and everything you've been known for, the face-offs and 24/7, I only watch HBO for boxing. I get movies and I have a large collection and stuff like that. So I don't really watch HBO for anything else. I haven't caught up on the show Ballers or anything like that. So I watch it solely for boxing, and I know there's a lot of sports fans that don't even watch any other sport but boxing. So HBO, I thought they would come with some kind of answer to PBC and Showtime, but it looks like they're kind of folding, and they're not really doing anything to suggest that they're trying to be competitive, like work around. And I put this 5 months ago. Showtime drops the bomb on HBO. Fans release massive boxing schedule, and that was Carl Frampton versus Leo Santa Cruz. It had Wilder versus Povetkin, which obviously didn't happen for obvious reasons. Jesus Cuellar, Anthony Joshua, John Molina, Ruslan, stuff like that. So it was a lot of fights, and HBO didn't really respond to it. And then now, on top of that, you're getting like the David Lemieux fight with Curtis Stevens that was all buzzing. And I believe both fighters wanted the fight, but HBO, with their budget cut, they couldn't get it. You know what I'm saying? And now you have David Lemieux fighting Christian Fabian Rios. So really not a good look. I'm just waiting for HBO to officially declare that they're out of the boxing business, because that's what they're acting like. Or whoever's in charge of their boxing programming, maybe they need to do a restructure, because it's not looking good. And it's disappointing for Golden Boy, because Golden Boy, their last couple big names that are already ready-made big names are people like Canelo. And then we're getting Canelo Liam Smith, David Lemieux versus not Curtis Stevens, but Christian Fabian Rios. So Golden Boy is due up for a big fight themselves. Let me know what you guys think of this news in HBO boxing. What have they provided? What is the best fight? Is it Salido Vargas? Is it Vasil Lomachenko, Rocky Martinez? Those are literally probably the only two fights that I could think of on regular HBO that I really remember. Maybe Luis King Kong Ortiz versus, I think he fought somebody on HBO. I think he fought this year against Tony Thompson, and then Jesse Vargas, Saddam Ali. But then there was no follow-up. Now Luis King Kong Ortiz is no longer with Golden Boy, so he's probably off the network, right? And Jesse Vargas, his next fight with Pacquiao, is not on the network. So, you know what I mean? There was that whole card. You're not seeing them back on HBO. So I don't know if they just decided to sit out this year, or if they're getting out of the sports business and focusing on their shows like Ballers and Game of Thrones. Well, actually, I heard Game of Thrones is coming to the end of the season. So you let me know what you think it is. David Lemieux will be fighting someone else other than Curtis Stevens. Drop it in the comment section. Make sure you like my video. As always, hate, comment, and subscribe. Till next video is Ego signing off. So if you enjoyed this video and want more content like this on the channel, you can show your appreciation by going to the PayPal donate button or the YouTube support button, and you can donate any amount that you feel is equivalent to the value of this video. Much more to come. Thank you guys for your support. Boxing Ego, the future of boxing.